Angela Whitmore always told herself that her life was picture-perfect, the kind of life other women in her neighborhood envied, the kind that Instagram feeds were built upon. A sprawling two-story house with white columns, a well-groomed yard lined with tulips, a Range Rover in the driveway, and a husband whose career as a corporate lawyer paid for private schools, summer camps, and designer wardrobes for their two children, Emily and Jack. Yet behind that glass-polished image there was something hollow, something that gnawed at her in the quiet hours when the house fell silent and she scrolled through her phone to avoid the echo of her children's absence, because the truth was that she had never been fully present for them, never really learned the rhythms of their laughter, their cries, their small worlds of joy and fear, and into that absence had stepped Grace, a black woman in her late 30s with warm brown eyes and a calm strength that seemed unshakable, who had started as just another nanny hired through an agency but quickly became the backbone of the household, the steady presence who made sure the kids ate balanced meals, who knew that Emily liked to sleep with her stuffed bunny only after hearing the story of Goodnight Moon, who noticed that Jack struggled with reading comprehension and patiently sat with him for hours until letters became less frightening, and though Grace had never asked for it, the children began to lean on her in ways that made Angela uncomfortable, calling her name in the middle of the night when bad dreams struck, running into her arms first when they fell and scraped their knees, and one night Angela overheard Emily whisper, "Mommy Grace," while half asleep, clutching the nanny's hand after a bedtime story, and the words pierced her like a blade because she had been waiting years for her daughter to call her that name with the same softness, the same trust, but instead it had been given so effortlessly to another, and rather than seeing it as proof of the love her children received, Angela felt it as betrayal, an invasion, a theft of the most sacred title she believed belonged only to her. So she confronted Grace the next morning in the kitchen, her voice sharp and brittle as she accused her of overstepping boundaries, of trying to replace her, while Grace, standing by the sink with her apron still on, calmly replied that she had never tried to replace anyone, that she only loved the children because they needed someone to be there when their real mother wasn't. But Angela, her pride stung and her insecurities boiling over, refused to hear it, her words dripping with condescension as she told Grace she was no longer needed, firing her on the spot and watching coldly as she packed her things, though inside she was shaken by the way her children cried, Emily clutching Grace's skirt, Jack screaming that he didn't want her to go, and when Grace knelt down to hug them goodbye, whispering that she would always love them, Angela turned away because she couldn't bear the sight of her children loving another woman more than they loved her. Yet she convinced herself that once Grace was gone, things would fall back into place, that the children would naturally turn to her as the center of their universe, but she was wrong, because without Grace the household unraveled quickly. Meals went uneaten, the kids resisted bedtime, Emily became quiet and withdrawn, Jack grew moody and irritable, and Angela, who thought she could step in seamlessly, found herself exhausted by the constant whining, overwhelmed by the endless needs, and when she tried to discipline them, they shouted back that she wasn't like Grace, that Grace understood them, which only fueled Angela's resentment further until she snapped at them, telling them not to mention Grace's name in the house again, and for a while she thought she had regained control, but then came the day when the school called, and Angela's world began to truly collapse, because it was Jack's teacher on the line, her voice calm but edged with concern, explaining that Jack had locked himself in the bathroom during recess, sobbing uncontrollably, refusing to speak to anyone, and when they finally got him out, his tear-streaked face buried against his knees, the only words he managed to choke out were, "I want Mommy Grace." Not the cold one at home, words that shattered Angela's composure, because in that single moment the illusion of her motherhood, the belief that she held authority simply by virtue of giving birth, crumbled under the weight of truth, and she sat frozen by the phone, unable to respond as the teacher asked if there was someone the child trusted who could come, and for the first time in years, Angela realized that all her wealth, her privileges, her carefully managed life meant nothing compared to the bond her children had built with a woman she had cast aside out of jealousy, and though she had fired Grace thinking she was reclaiming her rightful place, the reality was that she had stripped her children of the only constant love they had known, and now they were breaking under the weight of her pride, and as tears welled in her eyes, Angela knew that everything was about to change, though she had no idea yet how far that change would go or how deep the reckoning would cut when the Truth finally forced her to confront who the real mother in her house had always been.